In 2000, a farming couple in England did something many people saw as career suicide. Charlie Burrell and Isabella Tree decided to give up farming. Their neighbors called it madness. But they still laid off 11 employees, removed 70 miles of internal fencing, and broke up the Victorian-era drainage systems that had carried water away from the fields for an entire century. Then they released free-roaming herds of longhorn cattle, Exmoor ponies, Tamworth pigs, and 3 species of deer onto that exhausted land. Nearly 2 decades later, Knepp Farm looked completely different from the farms around it. It became one of the most powerful symbols of rewilding in England. Overall biodiversity increased by about 900%, and don't be surprised, nightingales increased by around 500% from just a few singing males to dozens of breeding territories. Turtle doves, a species that has declined by up to 98% across England, increased by about 600% at Knepp. Butterflies doubled, dragonflies and damselflies increased by as much as 871%. In just one day in 2025, 283 purple emperor butterflies were counted, turning Knepp into one of the last strongholds of this rare butterfly species. Then, in 2020, white storks successfully bred here, for the first time on English soil in about 600 years. Beavers were brought back. All 5 of Britain's owl species now breed on the estate, along with 13 of the country's 18 bat species. Most videos about rewilding only show you a beautiful green landscape and call it a success. But this story will go much deeper. We will follow nearly 25 years of data, look beneath the soil, and examine cow dung, insects, roots, fungi, water, birds, butterflies, and every small animal behavior. Every claim in this video is sourced from Knepp Estate's official monitoring program, the 2026 Two-Decade Ecological Review, and Queen Mary University of London's Knepp Wildland Carbon Project. To understand why the Knepp story drew so much attention, especially from American viewers, we need to put it into the right scale. England is a small country, and nearly 70% of its land is farmland. The average farm in England is about 215 acres, less than 1/3 the size of the average farm in the United States. Knepp, at 3,500 acres, is large by English standards, about 5.5 square miles, but by American standards, it is only a mid-sized livestock farm. When Charlie Burrell inherited Knepp Estate in 1987, he had no intention of giving up farming. On the contrary, he did exactly what a modern farmer was advised to do: invest in more machinery, use new crop varieties, upgrade the milking system, and increase fertilizer and pesticides to try to improve productivity. But Knepp had one very difficult problem: heavy clay soil that was hard to drain and expensive to farm. Every year, the cost of fuel, fertilizer, chemicals, equipment, and labor kept rising, while profits were not enough to cover them. After nearly 17 years of trying, the farm had built up debt of around 1.5 million British pounds. But this is what makes the Knepp Estate story different from a simple farm closure. Burrell and Tree did not sell the land. They did not turn it into a housing development. They did not plant commercial woodland on it. Instead, they looked at what the land was doing, failing as farmland, and asked a question that almost no one in British agriculture was asking in 2001. What would this land become if we stopped telling it what it had to be? Later in this video, you will see exactly how the land at Knepp changed once the fences were removed, water was held on the land for longer, and large animals began to be released. But before we get to those results, we need to understand the scientific foundation that gave this project a chance to be approved. Because without a strong enough theory behind it, the idea of letting a large farm become wild again could easily be seen as simply neglecting the land. That foundation came from the Dutch ecologist Frans Vera. In his book Grazing Ecology and Forest History, published in 2000, Vera proposed a hypothesis. Europe's lowlands before agriculture may not have been dense, closed canopy forests, as many people once believed. Instead, they may have been an open and constantly changing landscape made up of grasslands, scrub, open woodland, wetlands, and clearings created by large grazing animals. This idea almost went against the thinking of traditional ecologists. But for Charlie Burrell and Isabella Tree, it opened up a new possibility for Knepp. If their land was not suitable for intensive farming, maybe the real problem was that it was missing the natural processes needed to shape the landscape. In 2002, Charlie and Isabella officially wrote to Natural England, expressing their desire to turn Knepp into a biodiversity-rich wildland in the Low Weald region of Sussex. The first project began at Repton Park, where about 350 acres of land had been continuously plowed since after World War II. This had once been the estate's ancient deer park, but after decades of farming, it had almost lost its natural structure. So the first steps were not to plant thousands of trees, but to remove the internal fences, restore the natural flow of water, and bring in large animals so they could create changes on the land themselves. During that stage, Knepp looked its worst. If you had driven past the estate in those early years, you might have thought the same thing as many of the neighbors. Is this really nature restoration? What appeared in front of people was not smooth green pasture or beautiful flocks of birds flying like something from a documentary. It was dense thistles, spreading thorny scrub, hedges that were no longer neatly trimmed, soil turned over by pigs, and areas that had once been barley, corn, and wheat fields slowly changing into a landscape that was very hard to understand. But don't think of this as something bad. For a moment, forget the image of modern England with its square fields, neatly trimmed hedgerows, and peaceful little villages. Before humans turned most of the land into farmland, the English landscape may not have been one endless, dense, closed forest, as many people commonly imagine. It was far more complex. Open grasslands, thorny scrub, wetlands, open woodland, dead trees, sunlit clearings, and pathways created by large animals. Now imagine that in these landscapes, ancient cattle, wild horses, wild boars, and deer were constantly moving. They did not just live in that environment, they created that environment. They grazed, browsed young shoots, broke branches, stripped bark, trampled the ground, dug up roots, and carried seeds far away in their dung, hooves, and fur. Those small behaviors helped keep the landscape from closing in completely. One area became short grassland. Another became dense scrub. Another corner became young woodland. A low-lying area held water and turned into habitat for insects, frogs, toads, and water birds. Knepp could not bring the entire ancient world back. They could not release ancient elephants, rhinos, or the large animals that once existed in Europe long ago. But they could do something more practical. Use living species today to restore part of the lost behaviors. Old English longhorn cattle partly replaced the role of the aurochs. Exmoor ponies echoed the presence of ancient wild horses. Tamworth pigs dug into the soil like wild boars. Red deer and fallow deer browsed young shoots, opened paths through the scrub, and helped keep woodland from swallowing the entire landscape. Each species worked in a different way. Cattle both grazed grass and browsed leaves, leaving behind uneven patches of short and tall vegetation and spreading the seeds of many plant species. Pigs used their snouts to turn over the soil, creating open patches where young plants, wildflowers, solitary bees, and insects could return. Horses created short lawns and clear trails. Deer kept the scrub in a constant state of change. No engineers, no blueprints, no machines. However, Knepp is still not a complete ancient ecosystem. There are no wolves, bears, or lynx here to change the behavior of grazing animals the way they did in the past. That means humans still have to monitor animal numbers to prevent one species from eating too much and throwing the land out of balance. This is exactly why Knepp remains controversial. It is not absolute wilderness. It is a practical attempt to bring natural processes back into a modern, densely populated country divided by agriculture. After years of skepticism, Knepp began to change. Roger Morgan Grenville, a naturalist who later joined Knepp's safari team, also saw only thistles, scrub, and a piece of land that seemed abandoned. But then the first sounds began to rise from the bushes. He heard the call of a cuckoo, then came the song of a nightingale from a shrub that had barely existed just 1 year earlier. Nature did not return with loud signs. Birds, butterflies, and insects had begun living and breeding in the habitats here. Then came something else: cow dung. In a healthy ecosystem, dung is not waste. It is food, a breeding place, and the starting point of an entire web of life. At Knepp, researchers once recorded up to 23 species of dung beetles in a single cow pad. The violet door beetle, which had not been seen in Sussex for about 50 years, also returned in large numbers. A cow walks by and leaves dung behind. Dung beetles arrive. Fungi and microorganisms begin to grow. Insect-eating birds return. From something that seems so small, the whole food chain begins working again. Once pesticides were no longer covering the ground, the insect world exploded. More than 1,600 insect species have been recorded at Knepp, including many nationally rare species, and when insects returned, birds had a reason to stay. Nightingales increased from 9 singing males in 1999 to 62. The European turtle dove, a species that has declined by up to 98% across England, rose from 2 singing males in 2008 to more than 20 at Knepp. The purple emperor butterfly had not been recorded at Knepp in 2010. By 2017, 148 individuals were counted in a single day. By 2025, that number had risen to 283 individuals in just one day, turning Knepp into one of the most important sites for this butterfly in the United Kingdom. Even the large tortoiseshell, a species once considered extinct in Britain since the 1960s, was found breeding in Knepp scrubland. No one brought it back. It may have flown in on its own from Europe, found the exact kind of habitat it needed, and stayed. Underground, beneath the grass and mud, the soil was also coming back to life. Research using agrocarbon technology showed that rewilded soil at Knepp could absorb up to 4.8 metric tons of CO2 per hectare per year, more than nearby conventional farms, equal to about 1.94 metric tons per acre per year. Total soil carbon more than doubled. Microbial biomass more than doubled. Mycorrhizal fungi increased more than threefold. In other words, the land once seen as exhausted began to breathe again. Then came the biggest symbol, the white stork. Yes, after 600 years, England saw them again. In 2016, Knepp joined a white stork reintroduction program with Cotswold Wildlife Park and the Roy Dennis Wildlife Foundation. Some young birds came from Warsaw Zoo, along with injured adult birds from Poland. On the 6th of May 2020, a free-flying pair hatched chicks in an oak tree at Knepp. It was the first successful breeding of white storks in England in about 600 years. By 2024, 53 young storks had fledged. But the Knepp story does not stop with birds, butterflies, or living soil coming back. After ending intensive farming, Knepp gradually created a new source of income based on the very nature that was recovering. They opened wildlife safaris, a campsite and glamping area, educational tours, a restaurant, a butchery, and began selling organic meat from their free-roaming grazing animals. According to recent articles, Knepp attracts more than 140,000 visitors each year. Every year, they also sell about 75 metric tons of live-weight pasture-raised meat, equal to roughly 83 U.S. tons. They did not completely abandon agriculture. They simply shifted from forcing the land to produce to making a living from a healthier, more diverse ecosystem that depends far less on chemicals. The story was no longer confined within the boundaries of an estate in West Sussex. It began to spread beyond England. Isabella Tree's book Rewilding, published in 2018, turned this story into a phenomenon in the conservation world. Then, the documentary film Rewilding, released in 2024, brought Knepp to an even wider audience. The film passed more than 500,000 British pounds at the box office in the United Kingdom and Ireland, roughly 635,000 US dollars, and was described by distributors as one of the most successful documentaries of that year. Yes, a story once dismissed by neighbors as abandoning the land eventually became a film, a book, guided tours, and a lesson for land managers around the world. Knepp also began receiving official recognition. The project was mentioned as a leading example of landscape restoration in the British government's 25-year environment plan. It was also recognized as a verified conservation area, became a member of Europe's Ecosystem Restoration Network, received organic certification from the Soil Association, and won multiple environmental awards, including the PEA Award in 2015, an award for the River Adur Restoration Project, and the Anders Wall Award in 2017. But the greater meaning of Knepp does not lie in its titles or awards. It lies in the question this project raises for both Britain and America. If nearly 70% of the land in England is farmland, and part of that land is degraded or no longer economically productive, Should all of it continue to be forced to produce in the old way? And for the United States, this question is not unfamiliar. Think of marginal lands, exhausted cotton fields in the southeast, overgrazed rangelands in the west, or small farms that no longer make enough profit to survive. Of course, Knepp is not an ecological formula that can be applied everywhere. Laws remain a major barrier. Some species that could restore ecosystems more deeply, such as bison or wild boar, are tightly controlled under dangerous animal regulations. Carbon markets and biodiversity credits also need more transparency. But Knepp has proven one thing that is very hard to deny. A farm that once failed can become a place that creates life, jobs, food, tourism, and hope. If a farm that once lost money can become a place where birds, butterflies, white storks, beavers, and even living soil return, then the bigger question is this: how many other places around the world are also waiting for a chance, like Knepp? What do you think? Should humans continue to control nature so tightly, or should we sometimes step back and let natural processes heal themselves? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories of nature coming back to life in ways no one expected, make sure to subscribe and keep exploring with us.